This is why you set up DMARC with monitoring, and don't just use the empty DMARC record that your email marketing tool gives you, and you don't send the reports to your primary email address where you can't do anything with them. This is a view of a monitoring tool that I use. I set up all my clients so that I can see their monitoring results, and I get an overview very quickly of what's passing and what's not, so that I can figure out, are there tools that are misconfigured and these emails should be passing but they're not, or is someone using the client's domain without their knowledge, without having access to their email account or their password. Very, very, very important. These don't mean that you've been hacked. It just means somebody out there is spoofing you. They're using your domain, and they can even make up an address. You can put anything you want to in the from email. When you send out an email, you can put anything in the from, and it doesn't mean it's legitimate. So this is why we want to monitor to make sure that all the tools are configured correctly and legitimate emails passing, and to find anybody who's using the domain who shouldn't be, so that we can eventually block them. So 36 compliant emails in the last 7 days. Most of them came from Google Workspace, which she uses for one-to-one email. And then a couple of testing emails that we sent through ConvertKit just to make sure that it all flows correctly. To me, it's not enough just to set up the records. You also need to see it, make sure everything gets marked. You've probably heard a lot lately about SPF and DKIM because of all the Google Yahoo anti-spam changes. This is where we get a view of what's passing and what's not. So you can see, hopefully you're not red-green colorblind. I know they don't always pick the best colors for some of these reports. But in green, everything it's shown in green is passing, and then things that don't pass, and there can be specific reasons for this, but some things don't pass and they're in orange or red. So you want to get a quick view on what's working, what's not. 36 compliant emails, 62 non-compliant in the last week. Let's go take a look at what they are. What we're going to look for here, we're going to look for two things. Or we're going to be able to identify two things. Do we recognize the domains or the tools that are listed? So remember, these are all outgoing emails. This is not what we receive. This is what we send out that has our domain associated in that from email address. So when somebody receives an email, it looks like we sent it. The question is, did we or did somebody else? So we're looking at, do we recognize the tools that are domains that are listed here? If we do, then that means that there's something that's not configured correctly. We want to make sure we fix it. Then we look for, if we don't recognize the domains, then more than likely, not in all cases, because there are special cases where they might show up here and they're legitimate, but in most cases, if we don't recognize the domain, that's a scammer. They're using our domain and putting it in the from email address, and it's not really from us. Those are the ones that get us in trouble and trash domain reputation. Those are the ones that we want to block. If we didn't monitor, we would have no idea. And there's a process to go. Right now we're monitoring. I just want to make sure everything passes. Ultimately, we want to start blocking these scammers so that those emails don't get through at all. But there's a process, and I typically cover it for at least 6 weeks, depending on how much email traffic is there. But we look to make sure everything's configured correctly, and then we go up and start to increase security and put these non-compliant emails in spam. And then after a couple more weeks, if everything is going well, we reject them completely so they don't even get to mailboxes. Super duper important. So if you have any questions, reach out. I'm happy to take a look. I do a quick assessment on domain setup and give recommendations. And obviously, of course, if you want me to set all this up for you, I'll be happy to. Get me to theinbox.com, put in your information. I don't use it for email marketing, only use it to review your setup and let you know what's going on and how you can improve.